Hi, my name is Sarah Swartz. I'm a junior here at Claremont McKenna College, and I'm here with Professor Wendy Lower, who's the John K. Roth Chair of the History Department here. And I will be interviewing her about her new book, Hitler's Furies, German Women in the Nazi Killing Field. Would you mind just giving me a brief background on your book?
The book actually developed, as you probably read in the introduction, it's been many years in the making. In 1992, when the Soviet Union collapsed, as an historian, I thought, well, here's an opportunity to get into the archives. And as I was going through them, I came across lists of young women, young German women. I thought, wow, these young women, and they're here in these horrific scenes. Well, how did they get here? And if they're there, what are they witnessing? What are they doing? How are they responding to the violence? Are they actually involved, directly involved in the killing?
In your book, you're discussing how women during this time period had the opportunity to participate as perpetrators. A lot of times historians have kind of brushed over women's agency, and rather they've just studied them as victims or as housewives. How has your research proven that to be rather different, and how do you expect that to be received today?
That narrative of kind of victimization and the plight that they went through, that's not inaccurate, that's true. On the other hand, we have this story of German women not as martyrs and victims, but as kind of fanatical anti-Semites. What's in between, right? How do we reconcile, come to terms with what ordinary German women did? Because they certainly don't fall into either one of these, the majority didn't fall into either one of these, polar extremes. In my book, I'm trying to show that it's that place in between is not so much a gray zone, that we can actually start to very, concretely identify that we have female secretaries, nurses, in the professions, the wives, the mistresses, and they're all kind of slipping into these different roles that have something to do at some point, with the Holocaust.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about is with regards to justice. Very few women actually faced many legal consequences. How do we respect the victims who died at the hands of these women?
A book like this, in some way, is an attempt to rectify that kind of, when they get away with murder, well, not really, because here they are. So they ultimately kind of don't get away with these deeds because now we're talking about them. So my hope is that this is going to encourage students like you and other students here at Claremont and people who read the book, that they will start to get back into the archives, start to look at things, in a slightly different way and pose new questions.
So I'm very curious, since this is unique work in Holocaust studies, what's your reception been to your book so far?
I've got a lot of mixed reactions, mostly good. I mean, obviously I was delighted to learn that it's being considered for the National Book Award. That's huge news, something I completely didn't expect. Some people will think, oh, well, there's nothing new here. We know women can be cruel. That's not my argument. It's no revelation that women can be violent. We know women can be violent. But it's about how is it that women become cruel? What are the conditions that transform women and humans in general, by extension, into kind of genocidal operatives? What are the settings? What are the kinds of ways that they're socialized, how they grew up, what systems, what ideologies, and come together in a way that create these kinds of horrific situations and involve both men and women. And in the end, what I find is that when we talk about perpetration of genocide, we need to expand our understanding of what the perpetrator types are. Also, I think the second, important finding in terms of perpetrator types is that men and women participate in violence together. That dynamic, I think, has not been stressed enough in the literature. Above and beyond the shock of the numbers and the actual violence, there are other pieces in this story that I think are important to stress.